I am a traditional Democrat. I was raised Democrat, and I voted for every Democratic president. Um, and I will probably be voting for Mr. Joe Biden this time around for COVID reasons. But the left has gone awry. The current police defunding situation is ridiculous. The cancel culture is ridiculous. The sort of turning a blind eye towards the riots and the destruction that it's caused and the deaths that it's caused is ridiculous. Um, Turning a blind eye on uh, Obama Biden bombing the hell out of Syria and letting the Russians in is ridiculous. This all goes against my traditional Democratic Party values, and of course the exploitation of Asian Americans in order to support affirmative action for uh, blacks, Hispanics, and worst of all, for whites. Whites don't deserve affirmative action over Asians. To discriminate against Asians in order to hire more whites is being practiced throughout all the universities, or almost all the universities in the United States, and most corporate offices. This is sick. The Democratic Party is sick. I'll still vote for them for the sake of surviving COVID. Um, I have a family, I have extended family. We need to survive. Um, it's a terrible, sad situation. And I weigh this against these the situation of crime. The thing that's probably putting me at most risk is making these videos. Uh, I'm being putting myself at risk of being attacked physically and my family attacked physically just by having the wrong opinion. That is how things are these days. Um, but the defunding situation has made crime much worse in the defunding cities. This is simple psychology. I wish that the members of the left would believe in psychology, which is a true science. If you give people the opportunity to commit crimes without much punishment or without being caught, if you're not caught, there's no punishment, right? Then there will be more crimes. That's not because everyone's a criminal, it's because, you know, some small proportion of the population is criminal, some small proportion. And criminals are not necessarily just, they're not evil at all costs. That they're human beings. That's the thing that you need to understand. And if they're given the signal that there are opportunities to commit crime and that crime is not that bad, uh, there being no punishment gives a cynical signal, perversely, that crime is not that bad to some human beings. It also gives people the opportunity, well, then there's going to be more crime. That's just human psychology. Um, and if you've ever been the victim of a home invasion, like I have, you understand um, the situation. You understand it's real. And for those white liberals that live in nice little neighborhoods, it may not seem real, but the worst crime, the shootings, are going to have already started to explode in cities like New York City, Chicago, Austin, uh, Portland, Seattle, the places that have the strongest anti-police movements, police defunding movements, let's say. Crime is exploding. New York is up 170% since defunding. Chicago is up 50% for the whole year, which is tragic because it's Chirac there, as they call it. It just keeps getting worse and worse. Last year was horrific. Black leaders in Chicago are calling for more police, but of course the media is ignoring them because they don't fit into the BLM narrative. It's just absolutely tragic. Los Angeles is a hellhole, and And they're going to start defunding their police. The homelessness situation there is tragic. Why? It's not because of the cost of housing, it's because of drugs. And the problem with the LA multi-hundred-billion-dollar budget to end homelessness is it does not acknowledge that drugs are the problem, not the high cost of living. That's a small part of it. But it doesn't matter if you blow all your money on drugs. It doesn't matter what the cost of living is. You're going to end up homeless eventually. And because the LA government won't admit that, they're just throwing hundreds, literally hundreds of billions of dollars into a hole and burying it and leaving the dirty needles on the streets for little kids to step on. Um, yeah, I let okay. If I have a child, I would let him or her walk around. I would prefer to let him or her be able to walk around barefoot outside. Okay. But there's no way you can do that in a place like Los Angeles or New York, where the homelessness problems are, and even in places in Texas now, where there are just needles. You may find needles anywhere. Anyhow, um, defunding has already killed probably hundreds of people. Defunding police and drawing police out to deal with riots rather than deal with crime. You're never going to see that in the statistics because, some of this is because a result of, well, emergency calls are not being answered as quickly. There's no statistic for that. You just die because the police or the ambulance or the fire truck didn't arrive to your house. And police oftentimes are the first people to arrive to a heart attack or a stroke or a fire. Firemen might arrive first to a crime scene. Ambulance might arrive first to a fire. Um, you know, they all depend on each other. So to lower the emergency funding, like has happened in Austin for the police, and the number of 911 uh, uh, operators has been reduced in Austin, Texas, and therefore people are now being put on hold in a city in which there used to be plenty of police and quick response. So now people are being put on hold when they call 911. Yeah, there will be more people dying, or what, suffering paralysis if nobody gets to them when they're having a stroke, and people will just decide to hang up sometimes if they're on hold and they're calling 911, meaning if some teenager who's been trafficked across the border doesn't speak English well, gets put on hold, doesn't know what's going on, just decides to hang up. It's real. It's real. The left doesn't want to believe it, but they're costing the lives of hundreds or thousands of people if you count their border policy and so on and so forth. Crime, law and order, border policy. Um, Sadly, the Republican policy on COVID has cost thousands of lives as well. Probably tens of thousands of lives. But we don't know what the Democratic Party would have done. They may have left the borders wide open for months, and they may have, if they had been in power, they may have alienated the private sector so much so that the vaccines and the medical treatments would not have been advanced as quickly or perhaps at all, and we would have been dependent on places like China to develop these vaccines. That's it for now. Good luck.